We've been exploring some of the different factions and builds here in Godtear. And I wanted to kind of circle back around kind of a part two, kind of another layer, because things with Godtear are a little bit deceptive in how they work. And what I mean by that is the rules are so dynamic and so well thought out. Certain things in the beginning, your first 10 playthroughs, they become fairly obvious. And I mean that in a good way. That's the primary tactic that you're going to utilize. And you can be successful with that. You can develop a lot of different combinations and warbands playing that. But then as you begin to explore these different combinations and the interactions of the warbands, both yours and your opponents, these other unlocks begin to come available. And I think this is the true strength of the system being built from the ground up and truly being a modern skirmish type game versus building on some sort of legacy system, say like Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team Skirmish. It's built on the DNA, it's built on the bones of Warhammer 40K. It's got that 80s type feel. So with Godtear, circling back around, now that we've got that framework, Slayers, they seem pretty straightforward. They're powerful in combat. They're straightforward to play in that they want to get up there and kill stuff. And for the most part, being a champion, your Slayer champion, you need to be doing two things, right? Out there killing, but also claiming tiers, planting your flag on those piles of God tiers. And the duality of this works well with Slayers because I am effectively able to do two things at once. I'm effectively able to get up there and plant my flag, but because the game revolves around securing God tiers, either by planting a champion's flag, an opposing flag, or using your followers and henchmen to kind of block things off, that means you're going to be where I am. This is why Slayers that, like Rangosh, that are primarily close combat, are a little bit easier to play in some missions, because you'll get up close, you'll plant your flag, banner, and then you'll fight whatever's on there trying to crush your banner or plant theirs. Where other Slayers that might be ranged attack, they want to hang back, well, they're a little bit harder to play because I want to get up there to plant my flag, and certainly I can attack at close range, but then I'm vulnerable to being counterattacked. As a Slayer that has range, I kind of want to hang back and shoot. Of course, there are ways around that. We'll sidebar for a moment. Certain missions where the tier piles grow, I want to radiate them back to my deployment zone. So any Slayers, if I'm playing them that are ranged, I can camp and plant there and also shoot. There are also certain combinations to generate piles of tiers. Now, that means turn 1 and 2 are going to be a little bit more difficult for me in terms of securing points, but the later turns, if the game continues to that, if I've got tier piles in my backfield, then I'll just camp there with my Slayer, attacking at range and planting the flag. Now, within that framework, let's kind of look at the first layer here. Now, naturally, a Slayer gets the most points by beating up on another champion. I kill that, I get the primary points for the champion, knocking them out. And then I get the secondary bonus points for a Slayer securing that. So I'll try to punch and knock out whatever I can. The duality of this is it might take 2 turns, maybe 3 turns to do this. There have been some times where it's done in 1 turn if you can get some good combos. If you have henchmen and debuffs going on, attack the champion with debuffs and followers, maybe a secondary champion, and then have your Slayer go in and punk them. Like, it can be done in 1 turn, but that requires a lot to align. But usually, because your opponent's going to be doing the best they can to stop that, of course, it's going to be maybe 2 turns for that to happen. What this means is, how many points can you potentially score? Yes, I get a big windfall, but those points don't carry over in the next round. You either win the round or not. So this is kind of the first sidebar. What I see in the beginning with Godtear is players are looking to maximize their points on the track, get the maximum points. How far can I push it up? Get the maximum points. That's That's good. I can't complain about the results, right? But and certainly I want to have a good bank of points if possible, because my opponent might score some points and pull that track back down towards their side of the board. But ideally, I want to invest enough to just win. I just need to be ahead. So generally speaking, scoring small amounts of points each sub-turn, each time you activate, is much more important than setting up for round 2 or 3 or a turn later, a round later, to knock out points. Because a win is a win. So with that, secondary Slayer tactics, I'd say, go around and gobble up followers. Go around and gobble up and beat the easy points that you can gain. From that, what can I effectively kill? Now, I won't get the full points of killing a champion plus that bonus, and certainly getting that bonus is important. But if I can easily, this turn, if I can easily get 2 or 3 points from that perspective doing that, that'll help me to win the round. So, yes, it becomes about knocking out fellow champions. And I'm not saying don't set up combos, do all that. But as you're navigating that, if there's the chance to get smaller batches of points, because the Slayers, yes, they get the points from the primary knockouts, they tend to have volume of dice, they tend to have special combos, they can deal a lot of damage. If I leverage that against an inferior target, I'm going to get those points. It's about getting just enough points to win. So it's kind of like we've got the primary Slayer Tactica, which I pushed up to the channel here under the Godtear playlist. But then, and that's what I'm aiming for, but then there's like this subroutine Tactica going on that I'm looking at, that I'm exploring on the way to knocking out your champion and setting that up. What other points can I gobble along the way? Because I've got the biggest volume of dice. I'm rolling the biggest fistful of dice because I just need to score enough to win that round. Then it resets. So every round I'm looking to be just ahead as opposed to waiting 2 or 3 rounds for a possible big knockout.